some of these.
All right. What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and thank you for everyone for tuning into the Tattoo Collecting Podcast with special guest today, Renee Little and Ananda as well, the spiritual tattooer. And we're live on the Reinventing the Tattoo community. You guys can join us here every Thursday to see Fawn and Jordan, along with other community members, talk about art, collecting, clients, aliens, tech, and more. We're beaming out to several different places, so if you are watching, just let us know that these streams are working by tagging a friend who loves tattoos, or let us know where you're beaming in from, which is super cool. Of course, positive reviews are always welcome. All of these Reinventing Network shows, art jams, drawing groups, interviews, panels, and webinars can be watched all the time at reinventing247.com. While you guys are there, you can hook yourself up with a sample bundle from top tier brands, known for making some pretty quality products like Cheyenne cartridges, raw pigments, and D-Lives Pro. We also have several other weekly shows and drawing groups that you guys are welcome to tune into or even hop on the call with us. It's really easy and fun to do. You guys can set reminders for our upcoming events on our YouTube channel or catch us live on Sundays at 1 p.m. for Jason Leeser's Skill Sundays. This is a great show to bring something you're working on, or if you have questions about something, you can get a straightforward, honest feedback in a judgment-free atmosphere. Also, something really special that we do with Guy Aitchison, Monday evenings at 9 p.m. We have our evening canon class with subscribers. Guy Aitchison leads these, and you work on something different. Right now, we're working on a new trimester starting February 15th. So if you guys are wondering what a subscriber is, you can head over to courses.reinventingthetattoo.com to find out more about that new learning platform that we are implementing soon. Also, Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m., we have Ricardo Sturdivant's Tuesday Feels. Wednesdays at noon is the Tattoo Now show. And like I said, every Thursday at noon is a tattoo collecting podcast. There's also several upcoming real world events that we're already looking forward to right off the back of the Reinventing Live at Red Tree. We'll be beaming out for a World Tattoo Event segment at the Philadelphia Tattoo Convention on February 25th.
You got this, Lauren.
You can catch us at Hell City in Columbus on May 20th to 22nd. We'll be at the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational with Tony Urbanic in July. And of course, Hell City on August 26th to 27th in Phoenix. Before we kick off with Fawn and Jordan, we want to shout out to our sponsors for helping get this content to you for free. Thank you to World Tattoo Events for the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events in the world. Also, of course, Raw Pigments, an e-company that's tapping into the source with acrylic-free pigments that have been impressing artists across the globe. Thanks, Gabe at Tattoo Now, providing technology for tattooers for a couple decades now. And like I said, the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo, Guy Aitchison. You can find his biomech encyclopedia, DVDs, machines, paintings, and more at guyaitchison.com. Shout out to Jake at Fireside Tattoo Network, Amy at the Apprenticeship Diaries, and ecofriendlytattoosupplies.com. So throughout the show today, we welcome positive comments and reviews, and I will be watching for those on the YouTube channel. So feel free to comment there, and I'll let the guys know. If you want to join in on these live streams or anything like that, reinventingthetattoo.com. You can scroll down to our calendar and then click the event that you'd like. And in that event description, you'll see a Zoom link that you can click, and voila, you're here with us. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jordan and Fawn and our wonderful guest today that we just got to hang out with last weekend. And I'm going to get out of here and here we go.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Tattoo Collecting Podcast with myself, Jordan Rookus, and Fawn Baker. We had a couple awesome guests who are here this weekend for the Reinventing the Tattoo Live thing we did here at Red Tree. And so we got Renee Little, awesome tattooer out of Oklahoma, and Ananda, spiritual tattooer on Instagram. She owns a super awesome tattoo shop. They both own really awesome tattoo shops. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Do you guys want to take a moment and introduce yourselves?
Yeah,
Ananda,
Renee,
you go
maybe you
first.
first.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. I'm Ananda War, a spiritual tattooer on just about all the platforms. I own Light Hand Tattoo and Healing Arts in Fort Myers, Florida. And I've been tattooing for 9 years. And this is Golden Calcite, and it's one of my buddies.
Nice. That's awesome.
Renee, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep. My name is Renee Little. I'm Renee Little Tattoos on most social media forums and website forums. I own Gold Fang Gallery in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And you can see us there, and all my artists that are with me under goldfangallery.com. I own the only eco-friendly tattoo studio in Oklahoma. And I've been tattooing actually this month for 16 years. So that's
Wow.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks.
So over,
I
over
made
the weekend,
it.
over the weekend here at Red Tree, Renee was kind of doing a seminar about her process and how she works with, large back pieces, large bodysuit type pieces. And Ananda got to be the victim or canvas or collector, as I prefer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Full back and leg. Huge piece. Absolutely
I got
beautiful piece.
I'm the lucky one.
Yay.
I'm the luckiest.
Oh, my hat's off to you. I remember what the very first session was when we were getting all the light gray lines in on my back, and you did so much better than I did. Good
Mhm.
job. Like the times where I was like, you were doing fantastic. It's because I was just remembering like how much I like squirmed and wriggled when he was like coming up over my shoulder blades. And you were way tougher than me, girl. Way tougher than me. Great job.
Mhm.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, it takes two
felt
to
like I was
tango.
barely
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
no, you're great. You're great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it takes two to be able to do the process.
an
So you
initial
fucking
session
held,
like
you held
that
in there.
could take several hours, but like your mental fortitude and the way that you just laid there and you stayed so calm, even though like I've been there, I know how much it hurts, but you physically stayed very calm and you stayed like very relaxed, and it made it possible for Renee to get through half of your leg and an entire back in 2.5 hours.
Mhm.
That's an incredible
2.5
feat for both
hours.
of you. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, we weren't
That's
sure how
awesome.
long the actual
You flew-
tattooing was going,
flew
but it
through
was
that.
2.5.
In the best way.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I did what I could to just breathe, repeat a mantra when I needed to, and just remember how grateful I was to just have it. And it's like I'm personally the kind of person I like having tattoos more than getting them. I mean, getting them is a very deep experience and it's awesome, but it fucking hurts. So, I try to remind myself of that when I'm getting tattooed, like how much I'm going to enjoy it when it's done. And it's about like the lifetime investment, not necessarily like whatever's happening in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
But Renee made it so easy, like how just efficient she was and how tuned in she was to my process and where I was at. And Yufan too, check in with me and the whole crew at Red Tree. It was a really receptive, very calm, safe, awesome environment. I felt like you guys made it easy, honestly.
Well, good.
That's
Good.
awesome.
I know
We're glad you
how
felt that
I
way.
know how incredibly awkward it can be to be totally nude in front of like not just a room full of people, but like a room full of people that you look up to. So it's one of those
Yeah.
like, on top of all of the like pain and everything else that goes along with the process, you've got this like, oh, well, I guess here it is.
Right. And then add a camera to it.
And add cameras to it. We had some
Yeah.
cameras in the room while I was getting worked on
Good
too.
job.
But all of those situations
Nice.
are incredibly uncomfortable for a lot of different reasons. And you guys were both troopers through it. And one of the things that I like to talk about a lot, and I don't have the opportunity, is to talk about that modesty factor, the way that like, in order to collect big tattoos, it doesn't matter how modest of a person you are, you have to just kind of swallow it for the sake of the art. And it's part of the journey that I didn't expect jumping into it, but it was one of those like, well, I mean, I guess I'd rather just be naked than have you like fighting with my panties all day, moving them out of the way. And like that, like as an artist, for me, it's hard when like, you're running big, long sweeping lines and you got to stop, move the panties down or the boxers or the whatever, and then continue, where like to be nude, as vulnerable as of an experience as that is, it's something that sometimes is necessary just to help the flow of the project. If you wouldn't have made the decision to just like be nude and get it out of the way and do it, the whole project could have taken twice as long. Do you run into that, Renee?
Yeah.
Yes. And you always try, of course, your best to make your clients comfortable. But over the years, I really do try to sit down and speak with them beforehand about just like how naked they will be or need to be.
Mhm.
And I kind of reassure them too that the way that I start backs with that giant gray line, and getting it all the fundamentals and all the the entire project down first is that they
I
only have
I
to be
always call
naked
that
like
my commitment session, where we're just committing
yes,
the idea.
we're
This is just the
getting the
commitment.
idea
Mhm.
Yeah.
right. This is the foundations, and then we're going to build walls, and we're going to build, we're going to decorate at the very end.
Mhm.
And I make sure that they know that they're going to be naked for that session, and then they might be naked for when we do their butts. But besides that, they'll be either draped or they can wear clothes. They can. So it's really, if they have that modesty aspect of it, I try my best to even drape them correctly when they don't need. It's very important for your clients to not just be out and naked the entire time. Like once we got done with her whole left side, I was like, okay, I left literally like saran wrap over her. We could put her robe over her on that way too, because your client's also getting cold
Mhm.
further along in that the tattoo's going on. So really, I try for them to not be as naked as necessary, but most of my clients are very naked.
Mhm.
So I try to really, I make sure that they have privacy options, like they know all the options. So it's not just like, here, be naked, stand in that corner,
Right.
It's more of like, hey, and I at conventions too, like, man, oh man, oh man, I'm glad that I am kind of like a bulldog when it comes to just being wary of creepers, because there's
Mhm.
been multiple times, where you see that person with the camera and the long zoom lens, and they don't have a badge that says they're from a magazine or anything, and they
Mhm.
are zoomed in to your client's bits.
Unless it's
And
me. If it's me walking
unless it's
around
you,
zooming in,
yeah,
I'm really not zooming in on the bits. It might seem that
no,
way. And if I do by accident, that's not what I'll share. I promise.
yeah, no, you are the badge. You're fine.
I can creep in. I have the
You can,
permission.
yeah, you
Okay.
have the permission. You've got the creep pass.
Yes.
But I mean, I'm very territorial with my clients, and I feel like that's part of my responsibility as their artist at that moment to actually get the job done. Yes, make sure that they're healthy and safe, but also make sure that their modesty and their pride is kept intact.
Mhm.
Because that's part of the experience. So, I mean, I have slapped a camera out of a dude's hands before, but it
Yikes.
was justified.
It was
Yeah.
definitely a different experience. I had already been worked on at Tattoo the Lou by Russ. And on that session, we were doing like mid back all the way down. So we were like both
Oh yeah,
cheekies, and it was like late. So late in the process of the tattoo. So it was just like a day of just saturating and saturating.
mm-hmm.
And Russ was he was set up in a way that anybody that walked by could see him and see what he was working on. But it was very like, I was tucked in the corner. So it was kind of creeper proof. Like you could see me,
Yeah,
you could see what he was working
Nice.
on, but you could see the screen next to him with the camera of what he wanted you to look at. So
right.
but when I was at Hell City and I was like in the middle of two booths, and Adam was on one side of me and Ty was on the other, and they're both working on my chest, there was no hiding it. It was like so much
Yeah,
equipment, so many people, and all I could do was sit there with my eyes shut. And like the majority of the people, their comments were polite, but like there definitely were people that were standing there that were just dogs that like, and they were
yeah,
making comments like, oh, must be into the pain, and like all the trains of conversation that leads after
yeah.
that. It's like, nah, man, I'm laying here like a piece of meat in pain,
Mm-hmm.
like a corpse. Like this is not fun.
This is not fun.
Not
Yeah.
fun. So
Mm-hmm.
conventions are funny because you never know who's going to walk up or what they're going to say. So in that instance, I had already been like, my chest had been photographed. I'd been in competitions and stuff, and I'd been pretty naked at conventions. So like I'd already heard it, but there is this like you do want to be protective of your client. You don't want them to feel violated by onlookers, but at the same time, you want people that are like passionate about the art to get to see the art. So it's
Right.
a
Like, where is
funny,
the
like,
fine line?
as an artist, you almost have to be like super tuned in to like creepers and the comfort of
Mhm.
your client. Like for me,
Mhm.
again, it's a matter of I know the process. I am a tattooer. I know the art. So for me, it's I just swallow the modesty just for the sake of the project.
Mhm.
But there might be some people that aren't able to do that. And I think those people do need a little bit of extra like protection. Like you said, like a
Mhm.
bulldog, like, you know, you're their artist. They're trusting you. They're very vulnerable. And you're the only person sometimes that can defend them, you know?
Mhm.
That's another one of those special like tattoo artist client bonds that kind of
Yeah.
happens, is that whole trust factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always
And
try
that
to
bond
I always
is,
try to accommodate and not discuss with my
oh yeah.
clients what like how naked they're gonna have to be, or like, you know, if they have to like take their shirt off or take anything off, like offer pasties and things like that. And, you know, so like,
Mhm.
we can, you know, I'm gonna let you know what I need, and then, you know, this is what, you know, I want you to be as comfortable as possible. So if you need this
Mhm.
and that.
Yeah, we're fortunate at
Yeah.
Retreat. We all have private rooms, and if our room isn't private, we've got like partitions where we can offer
Right, we got
privacy,
ways
but
to
not
make it
all
completely
studios are set up
yeah.
like that. Some studios are
You
totally
get a whole
open,
open
like the
room
old
floor plan,
Retreat.
yeah.
And that's where you just kind of, you know, and I was tattooed there. I had a lot of work done there. And it's another one of those, like, I trust everybody in this building. Everybody are professionals. They're all artists I look
Mhm.
up to and admire. Like, I'm safe here. And I think that's a
Right.
super important thing with whether it's in any tattoo setting, whether it's a convention, whether it's a studio, like that safe factor. Like I tell people, like I say it like it's a joke, like, oh, you're in a safe space. But like in reality, that is one of the sacred special things about a tattoo studio is it should be the safe space. It should be the space where you can let go of your modesty, you can be vulnerable, and nobody's going to take
Mhm.
advantage of it, and everybody's going to
Right.
respect you the same.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we hope for, you know, and
Right.
every single time
Mhm.
I hear a bad story or a bad incident, it makes me want to up my game even more
We're
about
starting to hear it
just,
less and less, though. I
That-
think people that
yeah.
are passionate like we are, that understand the connection between the tattooer and the collector and the like the treasure of the moment, you know, you got to make
Mhm.
that moment as good and as safe as possible. And I think the more people realize that, the fewer we're going to hear the horror stories of like inappropriate
Right.
behavior and things like that. Like, I think it's going to become fewer and
Well,
further between.
Yeah.
same.
Well,
And it's
word's
having
getting out
strict
how,
boundaries, you know?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, word's also getting
Oh,
out just how awesome a tattoo experience can be. You know,
Mhm.
like it's not like they can just hide in the, oh, this is just the way it is anymore. Like predators are outed
yeah.
for what they are at this point. It's like, no, it can be safe. You can tell somebody, you know, I don't like that. I'd rather do this. And no, I don't want to take off my pants for you to tattoo my upper thigh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they can't hide in that, oh, this is just the way it's done. It's like, no, my friend got tattooed by this artist and she was super respectful. Or he
Mhm.
gave her a cover and told her ahead of
Mhm.
time, like where he had to access and gave her advice on what kind of clothes to wear.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I
I
think you're
mean,
right. Like
I've
the more that we up our game, we don't leave room for that shit to exist anymore.
mhm. I've even changed up my, well, I mean, besides COVID, I really had a hard thought on the conventions and guest spots that I would do. Because when I was young, I only knew like a certain branch of conventions that I would go to all the time. And I would try to conduct my business the way I wanted to. But I realized the people around me were seeing it as like a weekend fun fest. And there was a time that I had my client completely naked, sprawled out, covered, shielded, all these good things. But the person behind me got drunk and slammed into the booth and like collapsed everything. And thankfully, I was able to like catch everything. So my client was not okay, or was okay, but the whole situation was not okay. So
Oh man.
I think about like the reason why I even opened my own studio is because I wanted to be able to conduct the business that I wanted to conduct. So if everyone really, really solidifies their boundaries and knows how they want to treat their clients and what they want their clients to expect from them, they'll push harder for better quality control of shop, guest spot art, like, and tattoo conventions. So that's why I love Hell City, because I know everyone there is going to have the same kind of respect that I do. And if they don't, that's a really, really, that's a shameful thing. Where these other conventions are kind of like, hey, this guy's drunk. And they'll be like, so?
It's a funny thing. I've definitely been to both. Like even before I was in like the Red Tree Hell City loop, like even before I was like connected with this amazing team, I went to conventions, and I was like hungry to learn, and that was the best way for me to learn. Like I could go to any convention and just walk around and like pick 3 or 4 artists and just watch them like set up from start to finish, and watch them start the tattoo, and then come back 20 minutes later and watch how they're bringing in the next layer, or you know what I mean? Like I could just go through and like watch the steps that each artist takes, and just watch little tricks and things like that. But anyways, as I traveled to different conventions, there were, first of all, I'm fortunate enough to be like right in between the Motor City convention and Hell City. So, as a young tattooer, those were the first 2 conventions that I started going to. And then I traveled out to Colorado, and I went to one of the Paradise retreats. So like those were my first, that was my introduction to conventions. So there are some other conventions that I go to where it's like, this kind of just reeks of booze. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my introduction to conventions were these very education oriented and fine art oriented shows. Where
I had
like
the opposite.
it was like the cream of the crop artists who like they might cut loose, but they're still going to be there as soon as the doors open, ready to tattoo, excited to work, not like a chip on their shoulder, hungover, leaving their client standing at the booth waiting around for 4 hours to see if they show up. Like, there's just there's a level of professionalism in some circuits of artists that is like, that's the standard. That's what it should be. You know what I mean? That's the
standard. Yeah. Treating their clients like their actual meat. And that's where I started, to be honest. I was explaining to my coworker about why, she's a younger tattooer. She's just now a graduated apprentice. So she's still learning a lot about the industry as it is now, and history still. But she's doing great, she doesn't embarrass me at all, kind of thing. She knows her shit. But I was explaining to her about the groups, about like why I left Florida, and why, I'm really excited to even be a part of the Red Tree events and Hell City, and just everything through Reinventing. And guys, like, it's exciting to me. It's like opening a whole nother bubble that I like literally was dreaming of for pretty much my entire beginning of my career. Because I was like literally named the librarian of tattooing, or the nerd, or the diary. Like I was the odd one out, because everyone was partying up till 5 a.m., doing whatever. And that was like that Team Florida, neo trad was hot, and everyone's being crazy, and I'm just there doing realistic mice, reading my books, making sure everyone's paperwork's sent in on time, making sure like taking care of shop matters, like making sure they're just like, they were thankful that I was there in the most selfish way. But I also knew like, this is wrong. Like, this can't be this industry, and if so, then I've got a leg up on these people, So I saw it as a potential really to make myself like shine, even though they were trying to step me down, because girls were not tattooing in my area when I first started. I was the only one in my whole downtown St. Petersburg. And a lot of people were like, why are you in college? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Like everything was a question, but I just saw everything as a leg up, and I'm like, I will find my people one day, because art school is like that too. It's like, you have your jocks, you have your bros, and you got the little nerdy art kids, you know, I'm like, where's my lunch table of nerdy art kids? I gotta find them.
It
So,
might take you
and
till
he's
your
like,
30s, but you'll find them.
yeah, I'll find them. God. Yeah, when Gabe like is telling me all these things, because Mark, I'm sponsored through Needle Jig, and that's how I met Gabe, and that's how I met, you know, Guy, and that's how this is how the tree has been branching. But I feel like I'm literally in a whole other garden now. You know, I just like kept climbing those branches that were offered to me that felt comfortable and like what I wanted to do, like things that I was already doing. And I'm just naturally falling into this group now that I'm like, oh, yes, this is exactly what I needed. So I can always say for artists out there that just feel like they're odd one out, maybe just find a new group.
Yeah, just keep going.
Just keep going. Like keep doing what you're
doing. One
doing.
of the things that I like to think about all the time is like, it's easy to be the big fish in a little pond. It's easy to be the different fish in a little pond. It's easy to be find another pond.
Find another pond.
Yeah,
like
find
Mhm.
another pond.
I-
Puddle jump, man.
Mhm.
I felt so out of place in like the tattooing community ever since I started. Like I had a great apprenticeship. I mean, he answered any questions I asked, and I was never hazed or anything like that. But I did encounter early on through other artists just that kind of like, oh, you're not a real tattooer because you don't blah blah blah. And you know, like someone I thought was my friend who even tattooed me, and then he like just hear these starting all this shit behind my back, and it's just like, all right, people telling me like, oh, you should call him out, and I'm like, no, that has to do with him, not me. I'm just gonna keep my head down. And that's
Choose
sort
your
of
battles.
It's about
That's
me.
important.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
important.
Right? It's like, no, this seems like a you thing. Like,
This
you're
isn't about me.
upset. That's about you. And I just like kept my head down. And then when I saw like first heard about reinventing, like doing conventions during quarantine, I was like, okay, I'll tune in on tattoo convention online. Yeah. And then just hearing the way that people talk to each other, I was just like, this can be the tattoo community. What? Like, I want to be involved with them.
Right.
And when I heard about Paradise, I was like, all right, yes, I want to meet these people. I want to be there.
Hell yeah.
Because I'm not as much an online person. I'm very much like an in-person person. So yeah, it's so cool to be a part of a community that's actually just like really engaged about just bringing the whole community up. You know, it's not like you know, who's tougher, who's better, who's got the bigger sack, you know, like it's just about, oh, you brought that, cool, I brought this, oh, let's look at what they're doing, you know. So it's really cool to see that the tattooing community can be something other than what we've experienced so far.
Yeah.
Not that tattooing
absolutely.
isn't amazing, you know.
Yeah, I remember conventions were definitely like my step in the water. My upbringing was definitely less conventional and stuff. And it took me a long time to actually go to my first convention. And then when I did that, I just realized there's just a whole nother world of, you know, friends out there and people that were doing such amazing art. Like I had no idea what the tattoo community was until my first convention. And then I realized, oh my God, you know, I made so many friends and just it became invaluable to like, you know, my learning. And I learned so much so quickly as soon as I was immersed in having like, you know, friends who are in it for the art, you know, not just like the local artists that I'm working with, because then you get one out of every few that are like super drawn to like art, you know, like actually like be an artist about it. I just felt like, I guess it depends on where you are, but kind of where I was at, there was very few people that I could relate to in the at tattoo shops that I was working at that like were going home and painting or like would even want to talk about things outside of like, just like cool, like doing traditional tattoos. Like those are great, but like also there was just a mindset with it where it wasn't go home and do any more art. It was, you know, work is work and go home and do whatever else. And I don't know, I wanted to learn, I wanted to do so much more and learn. I don't know, just didn't have the resources or references, and jumping into the community
There's
just
so
changed everything.
People.
Yeah. But in my early career, it was all South Florida shows. So, I mean, the standard there was like smaller biker gangs would come up and be like, "You're a girl, what are you doing here?" You know, and I'd be like, "Not resolving your mom issues."
You know what I like? Early on, I did some of the Easy Rider events. So they're like these big like, biker rallies with like a tattoo area. anyways, I loved when I'd be like standing at the booth and they'd walk out, they'd be like, waiting for your husband.
Yep. Yep. One time I was freehanding on the back of a lake. So my client was like this, headed towards this person that came up to the booth, and I was freehanding, and everyone could hear. All my dude friends that I had as my booth neighbors were like, it was probably in the beginning of when they were start realizing that girls were having a hard time, because for a long time they didn't realize it. And this man came up to my booth and just audibly said, "Oh, when is the artist going to be back?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. He's taking a piss. He'll probably be back in like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. He should come back around." And so he came back around, and that's what I'm like tattooing. And he was like, "Oh, so where's the artist?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. It's real weird. Like, he should have been back by now. Maybe come back in like another 20 minutes. And every single one of those, like my neighbors just cracking up laughing, like, "Dude, you're a fucking idiot." But what I did to actually find good company, just so it doesn't sound like I'm totally art snob, classist, or biased. I actually, when I was very, very young, I knew that there were going to be other artists like me out there, but it was South Florida. It was, just kind of backwoods, a little different. So what I did is I actually did take the advice of keeping my head down. But I would also go to every single portfolio at that convention and look at what these people were doing. So if I saw that there was a certain kind of grace or tact or finesse, and I could see in their work that they actually really, really gave a shit, I would talk to them. So I've met all kinds, all creeds. I've got multiple friends that I've kept up with over the years that people see us side by side and go, "How in the hell are you two friends?" Maybe they'd be like extreme cholo, or they're extreme, they're just like extreme ends of the spectrum. That I'm like, because their work is beautiful and they have the same passion that I do. So it's about an intellectual experience, about an intellectual, it's a passion level. It's not necessarily about like your interests with art. It's about like what you like to put into it. And so as soon as I meet someone that's on the same level with me as passion goes, then I know that they're my people.
I like to say, like, when I meet people like that, I like to say that they're on a similar path to me. Like, there are some people that are on a totally different path, but they're on a similar path as me. And that means they could be way better, or they could be somebody who, like, I'm just cheering them on. Like, come on, catch up. Come on.
Yeah, catch up. Come on, you're almost there. Yeah. And when you see it, it's so much fun to like see, oh, this is where I was like 5 years ago. Oh my God, you're almost there. And then like see like where they're strong at and tell them that, and then meet up with them 5 years down the line and be like, "So you blowing up now?" And they're like, "Yeah." Yeah. And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So it's like finding that art. And that's what I saw that's the one difference that I didn't like in seeing what the monopoly of popular artists were when I first started, is that it was all about this, I don't know, it was a measuring contest. It was a handshake of like, it was like a secret ordained club of like, you're tough, you got money, you do blow, cool, you my homie,
You know what I like? You know what I like about like this clique or club, or, whatever you want to call, like we'll call it the Reinventing Network, whatever you want to call this, is like, "Oh, you've got paintbrushes in your car? Cool.
Yeah.
You got an anatomy book too? Let's smoke a bowl and do some stuff." It's like our clique is like, "Oh, you dropped the watercolor kit out of your backpack.
Yeah.
You accidentally dropped a trail of oil paints behind you. Come play with us."
Is this your copy of Lovecraft? Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I feel like once we finally, like, in the tattoo community, once the art nerds find the other art nerds, that's when it becomes like, "Oh, I should have just been doing this all along." Early in my career, I had so many people, like, so many other tattooers, and mind you, this is small town America, so a lot of other tattooers telling me, like, "Don't tattoo like that. You can't tattoo like that." Because I'm self-taught. So I was just like tattooing intuitively and based on what I thought worked and didn't work in other people's tattoos. And you know what I mean? So I'd have other tattooers telling me, "You can't do that. That's not how it works." you can't tattoo that way. You can't do this first, then that. You can't do this. And then, cut to, well, I'm getting so busy, I need to quit my second job. And now I'm getting so busy, I need to quit my other job and tattoo full time. And you're still telling me I can't do this, but like I have an agenda that's booked out and you're sitting and waiting for walk-ins.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like
so it was one of those like all of these tattooers were saying, you can't. They all wanted to keep doing the same thing because that's how all the tattooers in the community worked. And then I came along and it's like, oh no, I can make that pretty and colorful and feminine, and I can make it fit and flow, and I can make it look like a painting, and like I can do those things. And people wanted that, and people were waiting for that, where like all of these tattooers were kind of the same mindset of, the very similar skulls, very similar traditional styles, very similar lettering styles, very, you know what I mean? Like most of the tattooers in this town had the same look and feel. It's like, okay, I can tell you're from that town. Okay. And then I come along and they're telling me, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. There's an audience. There's always an audience that wants something new and fresh and different. You know what I mean? Like if you're the one that's different and you get singled out for being different, like just keep being different because you're being singled out because like you're standing out. And sometimes it may be different and crazy and weird, whatever you're working on, but like keep developing, just keep doing it. If people are coming to you and liking it and your stuff is healing well, that's actually something Derb told me one time. It was Adam was working on my leg sleeve, and like the True Tubes warehouse was still in the basement of the old Red Tree location. So it was just like bookshelves filled with like steel True Tubes.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. But we were talking about my work, and like I was just like, maybe I was just like humdrum that day, and he read it on me, and he was just like picking my brain a little bit. And I was like, everybody says I shouldn't work like this, but I'm like showing him my pictures. I'm like, but it works. Like, look at it. Like, and he's like, does it heal up well? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, do your clients come back for more? I'm like, yeah. All of my clients come back. Like, that's the thing. Stuff's getting so big, I can't keep up. And he's like, then don't listen. He's like, if your clients like your work and it heals nicely, that's all that matters. And I mean, there's a lot in those two little pieces of advice. Like that's a huge umbrella, but it was one of those, like, you know what? You're right. It doesn't matter what they tell me to do or not to do, because it's none of their business what my clients and I do.
Who's that?
Yeah. Those people that find like the naysayers, I more than likely find out
naysayers. That's a good word.
The naysayers.
Yeah.
That they feel like the naysayers of nay. That is one of the things. So like, stop nay hating.
We are the knights who say nay.
Nay.
We say yay.
But they find that we're competition. And like, I don't know, those people, and if people are being told nay, look at those people that are saying that to you too, because I mean, if you don't even like the way that they work and they function, then why are you taking their advice?
Right. Okay.
Because if they're competition, if they feel threatened by you because you are different, because you are standing out more than they are standing out, then that means that's a good thing. It's definitely.
Yeah. Back in the day, I did some casting calls for one of those tattoo TV shows, and I feel like the reason I didn't get very far is they'd like start asking like the drama questions, like, so what if somebody says something about your work? I'd be like, well, I mean, I deal with that a lot in my hometown, and I'm usually like, well, just work harder and I'll work harder and we'll both get better at what we're doing. Like, you do you, I'll do me. Keep sucking or don't, but I'm just concerned with what I'm doing. And they were like, you're chill. This is not going to lead to drama. It's not going to lead to drama at all.
At all. I got mad because they told me that they wanted me to cut my hair and how I feel about wearing high heels. And I was like,
if they would have gotten that far with me, it would have been like, isn't there something about smoking weed in this contract?
Yeah.
I think I'm out. I think I'm out.
I didn't get that far. But yeah, on camera, there's somewhere a video of me going, excuse me, did you just say cut my fucking hair? And then it all went downhill from there.
And It's funny. I went to one of the casting calls. I can't even remember what season it was for, but they shoot the emails out and it's like, I'm going to Michigan that weekend. I'll swing through. So a buddy of mine and I made a day of it. So we're sitting in like the big room where everybody's just chilling. And I'm sure there's cameras somewhere where they're listening to banter and what have you. So there's this artist that's like, I'm the best from my town. Everybody comes to me, and he's talking and he's like, I'm just like listening to him. And he says his name, and it just so happens his name like rings a bell. Like where my studio was in Michigan, there was only one other studio in the whole county. So like when you're speaking about the same county, it rings a bell. So anyways, he says his name, and I was like, oh, well, hey, I'm Fawn, and I like introduce myself. He shuts right down, just shuts right down. I was like, oh yeah, I have the studio that's down the alley, da, 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 da. And he just shut right down. Like he went from just like big pompous, like da, 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 to like, but it did make his day. I think he got we both got called back, but it was a pretty big deal for him, pretty special to go through a few of those hoops. I don't know how far he got with it, but I was like, I don't think I'm going to be dramatic enough for this. Like, I'm not very confrontational whatsoever. Like, what do I do under pressure? Like, nose to the grindstone. Like most solutions to most problems is work harder. Like
kick ass.
Yeah. Like, what if the person criticizing my work is right? Maybe they pointed out something I need to work on. Like, thank you for the free advice. I'll go work on that. You sit here with your attitude.
I had a lot of push towards those shows because like they literally attacked Florida from the beginning seasons, and they took all my friends and made them either really depressed people or narcissists or they already were, and they just uplifted it a little bit more. And they, I mean, some of it, fan the flame. But I mean, some of them, it was really good for their career. Some of them, it was terrible. Some of it, and so I don't know. I would just be like, fine, I'm here. I'm doing the thing. If I get rejected, at least I can tell them, shut up. I got rejected. I tried. I'm just not cool for TV. But I got as far as doing the psych evaluation. and it was there too. Ooh, and it was like 3 interviews after a couple of years. Like they just kept, and they asked me about the Angels thing too. And I was like, I'm busy. I'm going through a breakup. I'm leaving. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I still get the emails and stuff from the casting companies, but it's one of those like, it's going to have to be something cool. And now that I'm doing like the reinventing stuff, this is so much more my speed, and like the audience is growing, and, we get to, I guess the cool thing about our show and our contribution to this network is that our show is designed to show collectors the reality of being a collector. Everything on TV is like, it's creatively edited, it's cut down time wise. Like a lot of things about tattoo shows give people even more unrealistic expectations of their tattoos. Like it's cool because you can see what's possible, but the way to achieve that is not really explained very well. So that's the cool thing about this specific show is, we spend hours just talking about tattoos from like collectors' point of views. Like, we're tattooers, but like, all of this it's the information you won't get from the competitive tattoo shows. They're not going to talk to you about the spiritual connection with your tattooer, and they're not going to talk to you about how the collaborative process and designing is an ebb and flow, and it's back and forth, and it continues the whole project. It's not just, okay, we've decided everything, boom, set in stone. No, this collaboration, this evolution keeps happening. And, it's really special with large projects, and TV never touches on any of those important things.
No, it's teaching artists bad manners, to be honest. It is, let's get this out of the way. Yes, the tattoo shows have shown the public that there are all ranges of tattooers out there. I'm thankful for that, now all kinds, we have the whole, and now people know, like, oh, you could be an African-American woman and be a tattooer, and it's not so much of a surprise anymore, but it is showing new tattooers like, oh, is that the attitude I should have? Is that how I need to talk to my clients? Is that how I should, so I really do appreciate that Guy and everyone with the Reinventing Tattoo family is keeping a little bit more true and just honest, I feel like the TV shows flatten a sea that is just the deepest that I have ever known. And that's our community. And the way that we actually go about tattooing is so different. And I have to actually correct my clients. And that's why I do talk to them so fully and honestly and as much transparent, because I know that they've watched those shows. I know that they have pre-expectations of how this should go down. I have several clients that, maybe I just didn't clarify enough on something, write me later. They're like, hey, I really thought I was going to get a half sleeve in this many sessions. What's going on? I'm like, no, we discussed this.
I seen them do a whole sleeve in one episode. What do you mean?
Right. And they're like, why can't you do that? I'm like, well, that's not reality, actually. And I explained to them, the biology aspect of it, why that's, for your skin type, for your age, for your things, I'm going to tattoo you like this because that's the healthiest way for you to get this tattoo.
I like it when I have a consultation with somebody and they're expecting me to say 10 sessions for a sleeve. And I'm like,
oh my God,
5 or 6. And they're relieved that it'll only be 5 or 6. It's totally the opposite when they're like, we can do the top half in a day and the bottom half in a day, right? I'll be like the black work, maybe the very darkest of the darks and our darkest jewel tones.
I actually really, really learned how to talk to my clients about the expectations of a full color piece is talking about space work in any way, a full sleeve, a leg sleeve, any kind of space work, especially cover ups with space. I sit them down all right, I'm going to get real with you real quick. Okay. This is going to be a process.
And I work really fast too. So when and I don't deliberately work fast. I just try not to be wasteful with somebody's pain. But that being said, I'm a very efficient, large scale tattooer. And if we're really far apart, you're not going to get it faster than you're going to get it from me. And watching you work, you're incredibly fast. Derb said we should do a project together and he's probably not wrong. We could probably kill a whole back piece in 2 sessions.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Any volunteers? You want a crazy landscape, wildlife fantasy piece?
Anybody?
Hit us up.
Anybody? Actually, I was kind of like, hey, Fawn, join me on this back piece real quick.
All right, I'll start coloring the blacks.
I mean, she's coming to Hell City.
I mean, I'd be down to jump in collaboratively. It would be rad. But I also don't want to throw a wrench in a project. But you guys are so early on,
I'd be like, no, here's some spots. Do all of this blue, all of them. Let's go. Let's
run it. Let's
run it. I'm down. Let's go. Yeah. And usually the body is totally fine if you're within the same plane, of the spinal cord. If you're in the same area of the body, they can take it pretty well.
I've been worked on with 2 artists at the same time multiple times. So, we can baby you through it. Yeah. I had Russ and Tofi work on my leg together in a day. And then Ty and Adam worked on my back or my chest. So on your back, I feel like there are also places where it's I've been tattooed so heavily that it's nice to be okay, this will be the spot where I just back off because this is an intense spot. And then once you get through that, jump back in.
Right. That'd be great.
Don't be scared of 2 people working on you. If any collectors listening, if the opportunity presents itself, it's not that much worse. And if your artists get in a rhythm where one of them is working while the other one is dipping for color, and then they come back in with a seamless ebb and flow, it almost turns into a constant pressure, and then the anxiety is gone because it's just one constant and you can breathe through it so much easier. So it's not necessarily worse. There are spots where okay, the sacral area, that's pretty intense.
Shoulders.
Yeah, parts of the shoulders
near the
are pretty
kidneys.
intense.
Yeah, underneath that butt.
But
Where
maybe,
the butt and the
maybe,
leg
maybe
connect.
here's the thing. If we were like
Oh,
on
butt
both
crease.
kidneys at the same time, like mirroring the sides of
Right.
the body, then it could be that constant pressure, like I was saying. 'Cause
Yeah,
there-
the brain
some,
can take it a little bit
yeah,
more.
some of it, this is going to sound disgusting to say because it sounds horrible, but like some of the easier parts of my sessions with Ty and Adam is where one would be like in my like armpit under breast area, and then the other one would be on my collarbone. So they were in equal and opposite bad areas, but it was just like,
yeah.
it was just like a constant
Wow.
pressure on me. So it was easier to just like breathe through it and kind of like meditate on like the pain flowers that were like flashing, you know, the DMT pain
I
trip.
was about to ask you about the pain flowers.
She
Yeah.
saw the pain flowers.
You got some
Yep.
of them. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Sometimes I'll get to talking about the pain flowers in detail and I get real emotional. Jordan's seen me leak when I talk about it. It was a pretty intense experience the first time I had like major pain flowers. But
It's
that's
a
another
whole new.
crazy
It's
thing about big painful tattoos
Yeah.
is you
Guy's
can't
piece on
you
my
can't
back
get
is
those
definitely
experiences
got the
another way.
pain flowers on Guy's back piece.
no, it takes
There's some
people off
forms of 'em.
guard every time. Yeah,
Yeah,
people
that's
are
for
always like,
sure.
"Oh, are you gonna try to get dark?" I remember people asking me if you're gonna try to get darks down on your back, and I was like, "Oh no!" Like
Yeah.
we have a surface wound
Yeah.
right now that's going from the back of her knees all the way up to her neck. Her body is gonna be, no, nothing, no more, please.
Mhm.
And
I was
towards the
shocked
end of
by
there,
how much that rocked me.
yeah, I knew towards the end you'd start seeing
Yeah.
pain flowers. Yeah, I timed it. I was like, as soon as
Yeah.
there's like a temperature change that you can feel and you can see in your client, you can see that little bit of a nervous sweat. That is just oh crap. And you have about 20 minutes to 30 minutes to finish doing whatever it is you're doing with your client before they go into shock and they're done. They're just done.
Do you have your back done, Renee?
My upper back. I have it started, but I have to have it completed by someone that's not a creep. So when I get my back done, it's gonna be brutal. It's the same guy that did my hand, and it's Travis Brown, and he, when he lines, he really gives it to you. So we're gonna do full. I have one leg free from the back, so we're gonna do one leg all the way up to the neck and shoulders. And we'll probably do all the outlining in the session. He's going to kill me. I know I'm going to see pain flowers for that one for sure. But same thing. He's a homie. I trust him so much. And I told him what happened with this. And he was like, "Oh, no, come to me." So it is like when you start your back, it's almost like most of my back piece clients that I have are actually like I'm really close with. Like you can't help it.
You get close through the process.
You get close. Yeah, you just know each other.
Spend that many hours with somebody, you get close.
And going through those nauseous moments, those pain tolerance moments, that realization of what's going on. I really thought about it, and like the things I go through with my back piece clients is actually more than most best friends go through. And I go through it in 8 hours, like maybe once a month with them. Like I know more about this person's anatomy and their tolerances of life than most of their parents or their best friends. If they got to puke, you got to hold their hair for them.
It's so funny when like for instance, I was watching over Bob's shoulder while he was working on Lauren this weekend, and like I just like disappeared and came back with a handful of like different candies. She's like, "You read my mind. How did you know?" It's like I've been there. I've been in that like painful moment where like you don't know what you need, but you need something, and maybe
No
it's
fun.
sugar.
You read my mind like at that minute. It was crazy. But that was a good call.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things where like by getting big tattoos, you start to learn how to read your clients. Like there's that intuition gets even better for like what your client needs. Or like, remember when I gave you the pillow to put under Ananda's legs,
the legs
to relieve her lower back. If I hadn't laid face down all day, I wouldn't have known how sore the lower back can get just from laying there and not moving.
Yeah.
Exactly. But some of those tricks are like, this is why like I think all tattooers should be tattooed regularly, just so you can stay stay sensitive and stay empathic to what you're doing to your clients. And, you know, it
Mhm.
keeps you mindful that it's teamwork. It keeps you mindful that it's, you know, it's a vulnerable experience. It's a painful experience. And then on top of that, you've got all of the emotional and spiritual things that you add into the journey as well. So
Mhm.
I think it's important to just stay in tune with like the experience that our clients
Mhm.
have. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Right. And
they're going to walk
it's
away with a tattoo, but like every time they talk about that tattoo or every time they show it off, they're going to reflect on the experience when they were getting tattooed. You
Mhm.
know, like it's all
right.
Absolutely.
package
There's
deal.
such profound spiritual growth and mental growth available when you get a large tattoo, because it does push you to that brink of like, what can I actually take? What do I need? And like figuring that out. It's a very, very interesting mirror for how you deal with your daily life. You know, like what do you reach for? Like how do you cope when you get to that point? And when you're in like a trusting environment with your tattooer and you're able to be like real and that viscerally honest with them, I think for me, definitely it brings me into a greater sense of ease with being that honest with everybody in my day-to-day life about what's going on with me, about where I'm at. And I feel like in that session, like it was very humbling fun. You told me that afterwards. Like, do you feel humbled? It's like, oh yeah. Like,
Sometimes it's hard to find the words
like,
when you're that
yeah,
exhausted after a session. And it's one of those, like, for me, I had sessions where I literally just like I literally and physically felt like a punished child, where it's like I've just done too much to myself. I deserve this. And there's always that in the back of my head because I'm a tattooer and I do this to people.
yeah,
So it's like, I deserve this. I deserve this. And then I'll push
Yeah.
myself past the
Right.
point that I
Right.
probably should, because there's that, like, I deserve this. You know, I've got
I deserve
clients that want to
this.
tap out and we've got an hour and a half and I gotta like, how about we take a half-hour break and order some food and then we'll get this last hour and a
Right.
half in here. Like I've
Mhm.
been there. So
right.
for me, there's that, like, I'm not a glutton for punishment. I don't enjoy it, but it's like I deserve it because I do it and I need to stay in touch. I don't know. There's so much
Yeah.
that, like, I
It
haven't
is
been
so
tattooed in
important.
like a year and a half.
It's time,
Yeah.
Fawn.
Getting
It's
the
time.
itch.
Yeah, it's been about a year for
Yeah,
me,
it's
but
time.
we're actually tuning in
Mhm.
from guys probably not next week, the week after.
Sweet.
Picking
Okay.
up
Well,
2 days on my
I did
back.
talk to Bob about working on me. So when we go up for the expo, I need to text and coordinate with him, but he's going to do a black and
Nice.
gray D on me, like the Detroit
Oh, nice.
Old English D.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
That's
he's,
awesome.
yeah, I've got a little bit of real estate left for some sporadic tats. So I've got a spot I think that'll be perfect for it. Make me
Okay.
look like a
Nice.
gangster. No,
From a
I'm not going to put
collecting
it on my throat.
standpoint, do you think
Do
So
what?
cool. Hmm?
What's that, Lauren?
from a collecting standpoint, oh no, it might have been me. From a collecting standpoint, do you think it's important to leave like little gaps here and there, like as you fill out? Because like personally, I feel like I've got like, I knew I wanted my whole back down to my knees to be done, and I know I want this to be a full sleeve, and I'm just like waiting until I get that right place, right time for it. But do you think that's an important thing to like save spots for random impulses and collecting? And
So this is going to be different for each collector. So for my bodysuit, I've always imagined my bodysuit being done by several artists, but looking cohesive. So like you can't necessarily tell where one stops and the next starts, and they all like flow and talk together. So for me, like I definitely know when I do my sleeves, they are going to be sleeves. You know, I've got a collaborative idea for my right arm, and then I've got an artist in mind for my left. So they're going to be sleeves. When they're done, they'll be sleeves. I've got a large piece on my left leg, but from the knee down, I'm keeping that open so I can continue collecting little pieces throughout my career. Cause like, I mean, compared to my leg sleeve and my back and my chest, my arms aren't that big. Like they're going to go really quickly compared to some of my other large tattoos. So I'm definitely not in a rush, but once those are done, I'm going to feel very complete. So I will have, you know, I'm hoping one day I can get together with Carrie and have her work on my knee on my left leg. So it'd be Carrie, and then some Bob Tyrell on my ankle. And then I've got some other like awesome artists who've worked on my ankle and foot already. So like for me, there is a space that I'm keeping just to collect. I know a lot of people will have everything cohesive and they'll have like one arm that's like their like random collection. But I recommend, like, if you're a tattooer and you want to keep learning and you want to keep collecting from artists, like keep a limb. I call it my sporada limb. It's going to be like the only limb that doesn't necessarily make sense or connect, but that's going to be my like trinket tattoos. That's my designated
Collecting
place for
limb.
my trinket tattoos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a nice leg that's I call it like my confetti collection, because it's
I like
just
that.
like little fun tats, like I've never been that girl to be like, we're drunk, let's get tats, but I am that girl to be like, all right, we all experienced a stabbing at this convention, we should get a little knife, all of us, or our Airbnb burnt down, let's get a flame.
Your
or
Airbnb burned down.
it was Hawaii. Yeah, we all have matching flames. There's 3 of us, so
What?
it's like a little flame, and then the crazy flame is mine, and then the flame going out.
I kind of want to hear this story.
Well, we were really
Yeah?
lucky. It was the apartment that was like directly below us, from what I remember. It was in Hawaii, and we were out on the beach all day, and it was like the day before the convention, and we came back literally in our bathing suits and our towels, and we couldn't get in the building. We saw the flames billowing out. I'm like, is that our floor? Is that So we tried to figure it out, realize like all the floors underneath that got destroyed from the plumbing bursting, but our room totally okay. Some smoke, but totally okay. But we were still stranded in Hawaii, pretty much naked, which I guess is fine there, for like I think 7 hours or something. So we were just miserable the next day at the show, and we're like, we need a tattoo for this, so we like collecting memory tattoos. Like if all of us are together, we have like a taking care of business tattoo that we all got of like, unicorns playing like heavy metal guitars, and like we do lots of group little tattoos just to remember like special little moments of craziness. So I have a whole leg that's my confetti leg.
Nice.
And yeah, I feel like I tattooed like the way that I even draw for my clients, or how I approach my clients. Like I have a lot of clients in Oklahoma that didn't have any tattoos when they first came to me. And they knew that I did big pieces, and they knew that's kind of where my mind was at. So they knew walking in my door that that's what they were probably going to be talked into, or what I would be more interested in doing with them, like collaborating with. So I explained to them that I'm like, I have the most crazy variety of tattoos all over me. And I really didn't think about in the very beginning, like the continuity. I just really wanted pieces from the artists I really loved. So at least I got to the point where I started getting really full. And then I hashed out with a really good buddy of like, how can we connect all these things now? Like, what are the similarities in these random tattoos that I have? Because I have a lot of neo-trad, I have a lot of traditional Japanese. I have a lot of, it's varied. So, really looking at myself, putting my own body on an iPad and seeing how to make all the connections work. Like I was able to find similarities in color, like the same color palettes kind of throughout my body. So even though I have some different styles, there are ways of connecting tattoos as well that you've collected over the years. Because I will see an artist, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the only time I can get tattooed by this guy. I don't know what I want. I don't know where I'm going to put it. I know a general theme, and they would be good at it. So like I really see an artist and I look at what I want from them, not like I want them to like surpass their own, like I want to collect one of their pieces, So if they do animals with, little jackets, I'm going to give them an animal with a little jacket to do. I kind of like went overboard, and I have all different styles, but that was the one thing I could find. It's like connecting them through at least the same color palette and joining them all together. So hopefully I'll have a nice cohesive bodysuit when I'm done. But now I get to collect the process of joining together. So I'm actually now like I'm about to have this entire sleeve recolored, redone because it's so old, but also just to connect everything together now. So I'm actually still collecting, even though I'm pretty much covered. So that's a good idea too. It's like if you have a lot of stuff, like it can always be like amped up. I think Jesse been doing that. He's been showing examples of like older tattoos coming in, and he is not only just revamping them, like redoing the color, he's actually adding as well, like more details, more little fun aspects, changing like line weights, and giving these older tattoos that he had done a little bit more dimension, a little bit more illustration, a little bit more character. So I see my tattoos as potential of that as well. And if I can get the original artist to do it too, I can. Like there's one guy, it's Kool-Aid is this guy. And I'm like, how can I find this man? I mean, I know, but yeah, like I will seek him out so he can touch up his own tattoo and do what he wants with it, And I think that's fun because now I get to find him, like 15 years after he's done the tattoo and be like, hey, you want to do it again? And you want to add anything different? Like you have grown since I've seen you last. So yeah, there's another aspect of tattoo collecting like that as well that now I realize that I'm doing with myself is I'm redoing in a way, but I'm combining and merging and making my suit into one, because that's ultimately my goal is I want to be suited. So, and I planned for it, but now I'm figuring it out.
We call that an accidental collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of my artists or a lot of my clients also come to me because they have like, patchwork. They're like, oh, I have this, I have this, I have this. How do I blend these together? So
and you say, have a seat.
Have
Just
a seat.
Close your
eyes. Yeah, close your eyes. Let's have a seat. Right. And it's because I had to do that with myself. Now I figured out how to do it for my clients, like finding the common variable that they have all over them that I know will combine all these little patchwork pieces into one big piece. And sometimes, honestly, it's just adding cute flowers here and there, they're like, yeah, you're good to go. Or like, hey, this line works a little thick on this one, so I'm going to duplicate that here on this one, and going into older works, and if everyone's fine with it, everyone's kosher with it. I do email and message other artists that I respect, like, hey, can I do this with your piece? Or I'm going to be merging next to your piece. Is it okay?
Somebody just hit me up about continuing a space sleeve that was started by somebody else. And it's like clearly only one session in, but like not bad. It's not a train wreck. It's like what a space sleeve looks like on its first session.
Right.
And like before I even gave him like my webpage, because he hit me up on Facebook, which is fine. But before I even gave him my webpage and like actual like real contact info, I wanted to know who did it and why he wasn't going back to them. And he explained like he really loved this artist, but it was a horrible experience. And he and his fiance just weren't comfortable going back to have either piece finished, which is like the worst thing I want to hear. Like those are the people where it's like, let me show you that tattooing is awesome. Let me show you that like, it can be great. Like those are like as much as like, I don't need or necessarily want to take on cover-ups or reworks. It's those experiences where like, okay, this person's already like their trust has been broken by somebody else and they've come to me.
Right.
Like that's where it's like I almost feel like that's where I almost feel like I have a responsibility to just show them how good the tattoo community is and like how magic it is. It grinds my gears when I hear those horrible stories. And they didn't get into specifics, but like anytime it's a bad experience with a tattoo and that's why you can't get it finished or that's why you want it covered, or it's just it just kind of like makes my heart hurt.
It makes my heart hurt too. But as soon as I hear those words of, I will not go back to that artist, I go, okay, all right. It doesn't matter if they're the top dog of the field.
But like,
whatever,
the reason I ask is because I want to know, like, why isn't this complete? Like, did you get fired as a client? Were you difficult? Did you reschedule several times? Did you lose track of the artist? Did the artist move? Did you move? Like, what are the circumstances? Why is this incomplete? Because I don't want to set myself up for like a red flag or a difficult client, because a lot of times like cover-ups and reworks, those are the nightmares. They're the nightmare clients because like they probably had unrealistic expectations with the first artist, got a chip on their shoulder and now they expect you to be a miracle worker. And when you still have limitations, they like, it's like, well, we had to compromise because you already had this. And sometimes that's still unacceptable. So,
Yeah.
so there's always this, like, anytime you reach out to an artist, if you get bombarded with questions, they just want to make sure you're not the cause of the
Crazy.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Don't be a squeaky
Crazy.
wheel. That's what I like
It's
to call them.
also so-
Squeaky wheels.
Well, and to fight for
It's
your
also so
comrades
important
as
when you're-
well. I'll do it real quick.
when you're getting a cut.
Mhm. We're bad at this.
Sorry, I guess there's a lag on my
Ananda, go.
microphone or something.
Ananda,
Oh,
go, yeah.
It's so important when you're getting a cover up that you have like a realistic expectation of like what a cover up can be. You know, it's like we can't cover up an American traditional full color tattoo with dainty line work like floral. It just can't happen. You're going to end up with two tattoos on top of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, blastovers can be rad.
Yeah.
Blasters
But
can
if
be
that's
rad.
what you're looking for, it's like I can't tattoo open skin over like bold black lines and red fill. It's not gonna work out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that there was a time that a girl that I knew just from mutual friends came up to me, like I think we were out at a concert or something, the before times. And she showed me her arm and I was like, oh, like that's awesome. Because I recognized the artist and he was also one of my artists that I went to in Florida. And she was like, yeah, like I don't really like the experience, but I dived in and asked him like, well, why? Like what happened? You know, she's like, I don't know. He just wasn't really talkative. And I was like, well, what else? And they're like, that was it. He just didn't really talk to me a whole lot. I'm like, well, yeah, he's a little awkward. You know, that's him. But like, was it a clean, like, was it a safe tattoo? Was it a clean tattoo? Did you feel respected? Did you feel unsafe? She's like, oh no, nothing like that. He just didn't talk to me that much. And I'm like, well,
so
and she was asking me to finish the tattoo for her, but I was like, please go back to him and please finish that beautiful tattoo and just accept the fact that there's some artists that are awkward. You know, like we're not there to be totally social with you, and it is your time, it is your day, but we're not salon here. We're focusing, you know. And so I'm really glad. Oh, go ahead, Fawn. Go.
Okay. In my hometown, similar story. And I get this all the time. I'll have clients of his hit me up and I've had consultations with some of them. And it's like, well, why don't you want to, like, who did this? Why don't you want to go back? And we have the whole conversation and they'll be like, and this artist his name is Kelly Jordan. He's a phenomenal artist. He worked in California for a while. Now he's in Marion, Ohio, but they'll talk about like how sometimes he doesn't even put music on. Sometimes he just like works silently. And I'm like, he's hard of hearing. And they're like, oh. So, you know, it's one of those things where like, sometimes you got to remember that your artist is a person too. And a lot of artists, it's just one of those things with creative minds. A lot of artists are going to have learning disabilities, dyslexia, personality disorders. Some artists are just language barriers. Some artists are just introverts altogether, and they're afraid to let you into their bubble at all. Some artists are very guarded, and it's really hard to break through that. And that's fine because they're a person and that's their journey. But a lot of that is
there to do a job for it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is what makes an artist's work special. As a collector or, you know, as a non-artist, you might not understand that different personality types still make beautiful art, and you kind of have to be patient. Like some of the most talented artists have what somebody in another community might call a disability, but in reality, this is what gives them their unique viewpoint or their unique style. So that's one of those things where like you can speak to your artist. You can be like, hey man, why don't you turn some music on? Or, hey, and your artist might be like, you know what? I had my headphones in. I didn't even realize it stopped. Like you can use your voice with your artist. That's why I like to say that it's a collaborative project. Like if your artist isn't very talkative, if they're the type that like just zones in on what they're doing, don't be off put by that. Ask if they have an iPad that you can watch Netflix on. And they're probably going to be like, oh yeah, homie, here you go. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
artists want to be accommodating, but some clients are, and so here's a thing to keep in mind. Some clients get so buried in their phone and they'll have their headphones on. So like we as artists are like, do I offer them snacks? Are they hungry?
Am I interrupting their process? Like,
Yeah.
Usually
Are they in a Zoom meeting?
Usually when people just put their headphones in
Right.
and tune out like that, I'm like, okay, I see how it's going to
Cool.
go today. Like not in a
Yeah,
bad
all
way.
right,
I'm just like,
exactly.
all right,
You'll
see
be
you
in your
later.
word, I'll be in mine.
Right.
I'll tap you when I need you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Tap
if
me and
but
need
it's
me, you know?
If the experience is just awkward, just remember that artists are just socially awkward people. Some of us are really good at like putting on a talkative mouthpiece, but like we're still real awkward and weird.
Right.
Like,
Some days I
Yeah.
can't shut my
Yeah.
mouth
Right.
and like
Yeah.
conversation like crazy. Some days like I come in and like I'm just like in the tattoo all day, like so focused that like 3 hours go by and I'm like, oh shit, sorry, I haven't said anything in 3 hours.
that's one of the
Yeah,
reasons.
like, and time
like,
moves so fast for us too.
Mhm.
Like when we're in it, we're in it, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh wow, sorry. And
Mhm.
I mean, usually we're in it with our clients being in it. Like we'll both be in that zen together,
Yep.
you know. But I've had multiple clients throughout the years, you know, that have anxiety issues. So I try to accommodate for them, but sometimes they're just having a rough day, you know.
Mhm.
And I try not to take any of it personal ever. And
This
but
is
I
one of
am
the
very,
reasons-
Mhm.
I know a lot of artists really like their break time and they like to step away from their client and they like to like decompress. But I like to invite my client with me to do that because sometimes I'm so
Yeah,
in the zone that I'm not that
Yes.
talkative with my client while I'm working. But like whether they smoke or not, I invite them to smoke with me or come with me while I smoke because that's when like I'm letting my wall down. That's when I'm a little bit more chit chatty and that's when we can like draw stories out of each other. And that's where I can be like,
Mhm.
I know it sucks, but we got so much done. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know that last
Mhm.
round was really brutal, but this next round's not going to be so bad. Or, you know what I mean? Like, we
Mhm.
can talk about future, everything. We can just like
Everything.
be ourselves with our
shit.
client.
Keeping
Yeah.
that communication open.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's keeping that
Mhm.
communication open, being open and honest about things that are going on. Like, you know, and if you're noticing things about your artist that are like, I don't know about this, like facing it and be like, hey, what's going on with this? Can you turn some music on or like what's going on?
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Your
Don't be
instead
artist
of
afraid
wants
to,
you
looking
to
don't
be
be afraid to
comfortable.
speak your
that's
mind and
something
don't sit there.
weird.
Yeah, don't sit
Yeah,
there
don't
stewing
sit
about
there and
anything at all.
suffer.
Like
Yeah.
communicate like a
'Cause that
normal
will-
human being because other people can feel your
Oh,
emotions when
yeah.
you're feeling stuff. Body language is everything. And if
Oh,
they're not
man,
talking
yeah.
and you're feeling
Everything.
weird because they're not talking, maybe they're not talking because you're sitting there feeling weird. And they're going, why is this person being
Yeah.
weird? Or it's because
Yeah, why is this person
you're
being
not
weird?
communicating your feelings like a normal human being.
Yeah, like I'm not
Yeah,
psychic.
just
I had
being
actually,
open about like,
Mhm. I did
be
have to
open,
explain.
be like, yeah, some feels a little weird.
Right?
Yeah, something's a little weird. And I mean, it's hard. A lot of people don't know how to ask for receiving. Like people don't know how to ask what they want. That is, I think, Amy Palmer did an entire TED talk about asking for things, like how to ask.
You know, I say
And
it all
like,
the time. It's a
that's
part of the
great
human
book.
condition. We just like Jordan has definitely been a victim of me doing it, but like we just assume the people around us are mind readers. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I don't know how many times it's like, oh, I thought you read my mind. That's what it was. I thought you read my mind. That's why you didn't do the thing because you did not read my mind. But it's like this
Mhm.
I
this
think people
constant
are
thing
on,
that I
on
have
the
to
same wavelength and then
Yeah.
we're like, oh wait, no.
I have to remind
Yeah,
myself
yeah.
that we're not mind readers. I can't read your mind. They can't read my mind. And sometimes like if it feels awkward, just say something. Like be like, can I
Say
get some
something.
music? Could I,
Yeah.
you know, and
Mhm.
I think any artist is going to want to make you comfortable because the more comfortable our client is, the easier our job is. So it's one of those like if
Mhm.
you feel
Right.
awkward, like be like, hey, can we make this chair more comfortable? Could I sit differently? Do you have a different chair? You know, we get some
Mhm.
music, you know, whatever the thing is that you need. Like,
Just don't ask them that fast, that quickly.
yeah, don't say, can I get
Yeah,
a pillow? Can I
right.
get a chair? Can I
Yeah.
get a blanket? Can I
My
get a
chair's uncomfy.
Netflix?
Can I have a new one?
Can
Yeah.
you play some Tool?
I-
Nope, I want new Tool. Nope, this is too new.
Too new. I want old Tool.
I
I
have.
want kind of new,
Oh
but
God,
old
Tool.
Tool.
I don't want 9 hours of Tool, but I want Tool. Yeah. I actually have a good story for this one because I'm not going to say who it was. I don't know. But it was a really, really well-known tattooer. And I learned as I was getting tattooed that he's actually only been tattooing for 5 years, even though his art is such a like, it's just so refined. You know, he freehands everything. He's just such a natural artist and tattooer, but his tattooing etiquette, his bedside manner, and his ergonomic sitting, like he hadn't reached that yet, you know? So as a tattooer, and he knew this as well, I'm seeing him set up and I'm like, yo, bro, I'm not sitting in that chair like that for fucking 9 hours. He's like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'm like, so you're going to bend over. Like, and I was making fun, like, I wasn't being mean about it. I was like, so you're telling me you're going to bend over for 9 hours and do that to yourself? He was like, yeah, I'll be fine. It's fine. Like, no, put me in a chair or put me on a table, lay me down. And so I was like momming him a little bit, but we got through 10 hours of work. And he was like, you were the first person in 6 months to not have a total mental freak out. I'm like, I wonder why. You're trying to sit him up in a chair. You know, you're uncomfortable, they're uncomfortable. Like, what are you doing? And the whole tattoo was awesome. Like, the experience, we vibed really well. But I had that first moment of just like kind of like poking a little fun at him. Like, no, you're not. Get that chair out of here. What are you doing? Lay me down on a bed, silly. You know, and he was like, oh, wow, that was incredible. I've never even like tattooed like that, you know? So it is really important as a client, as a receiver, as a collector of tattooers to make sure, one, you know thyself. If you know that there is a way that you can sit comfortably and receive pain for a really, really long time, tell your tattooer. You know, we can usually accommodate any way for a client's
I always like to ask
like,
my clients, like if let's say we're working on like back of the leg or a back piece, rib piece, whatever, I always ask if they're comfortable laying on their belly. Because some people are like, I sleep like that, and then they'll be out in 5 minutes and I can
right. And some people are like, oh no.
But other people, it's like I can only do it in short stints. So I mean, my room was like loaded down with chairs, but I've got that taller rolling chair in my room, and that's just for back pieces. Like I'll roll that out and I can stand and I can work on the shoulders and stuff while I'm standing, and gravity helps like the whole stretch process and everything. So I mean, that's a thing to keep in mind too, is like sometimes you're ergonomically going to be most comfortable to stand, and sometimes you're going to be ergonomically most comfortable having your client sit or lay, or and sometimes you're going to switch it 3 or 4 times in one session. So don't ever think like, you know, this one position is it. Like I've got clients where like strategically, you know, maybe they've got a hip issue or a back issue where like we need to change positions every half hour or 45 minutes so they don't get stiff. And honestly, like as a tattooer, like I get really stiff. So there are days where like if I've had like a long run of days in a row where like I'm working from like 2 to like 2 or 3 in the morning each one of those days, I especially need to be mindful to like change my position up, like sit for a little bit, stand for a little bit, work off my left side for a little bit, work off my right side for a little bit. But for me, those like changing positions as a tattooer is what allows me to work the long hours over and over again without having any, I mean, my massage therapist would probably disagree, but without having any real like major issues.
Right. Well, I find too that it's just so important to have your client, no matter what, grounded in whatever position they're in. So if they are uncomfortable, they're not grounded. And because if they're not grounded, then anything could happen. They could flinch, they could jump, they could either just be in agony the whole time because it's not the tattoo that's hurting them, it's their own body. So they're using and wasting all of that natural energy
I think
that they're
that's
producing for the tattoo.
I think that's a big thing too, is like when people don't say anything when something is hurting, like maybe their arm, the circulation's getting cut off in their arm a certain way or something. And like I'm tattooing them for, you know, we go on like a 20-minute stint or, you know, half-hour stint or something like that. And they're like, oh, you know, they're finally telling me that their arm's kind of numb, or I'm like, let's stop for a second. We'll take a little break. And they're like, all right, cool. My arm is like completely numb. I'm like, you should have told me that forever ago. Like, I don't like need to, we don't need to like that's, wow, that's weird. That's gonna make it worse.
I have a traumatic story. So I'm actually like quite well, moving to the Midwest and realizing people aren't necessarily transparent about themselves has made me more like, are you comfortable? I can see that you're not. I'm going to do a thing. Because I was tattooing a pretty large man, and I didn't realize that he was holding himself up just like clenching his abs and just holding himself up just a little bit. And I kept asking him, like, are you okay? Like, can I maybe like this? He's like, no, I'm fine. just kept telling me, no, really, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. And then he had a hernia because he was overdoing it.
Oh, what?
And touching
Damn.
a person while they have a hernia is probably the most horrible, traumatic, empathic, physically empathic thing I've ever gone through. And I afterwards, after the whole ordeal of the hospital and everything, I talked to him about it. I was like, what was going on? Like, I could feel you that you weren't comfortable. And I kept trying to try different things to see like how I could like level this out. And he was like, no, I just really didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to be a burden. And so I really, now it's almost like a whole different conversation because of this trauma of
Yep. I
experience.
like to remind my clients that like, this is your day. This is your spa day. Like, yes, I'm going to be beating you up. I'm going to be torturing you. But outside of that, this is a spa day. Like however you can be the most comfortable, it's going to make the pain less. It's going to help me work most efficiently. And I think once I explain to clients that like, the more comfortable you are, the faster I can work. Then they're like, oh,
yeah.
well, all right.
Okay.
Well, I will communicate.
Then they don't feel so selfish.
If it makes both of our lives easier for me to be comfortable, then it's like, then I can get more comfortable too. And I don't have to fight to hold you as hard. And you know what I mean? Like the more comfortable you are as a client, the more easy and efficient the whole day goes for the tattooer. It really is. I think it's important
to say that too. Yeah. To say that like, no, this is really beneficial for you and me. Because if you don't, if you just act, then they think that we just want them to be comfortable. We're serving them. And then they don't want to feel off-putting by being like, oh, yes, give me the
we'll still get the tattoo done if you're uncomfortable, but it's like we're both pushing a boulder uphill all day. Where if we get you comfortable, we're just pushing it down the sidewalk. No problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure if your client, it's about that clear communication. And if your client doesn't feel comfortable being clear, watch for the signs, if they are like slightly like vibrating or shaking, they're usually like straining a muscle or holding a muscle and the muscle's getting tired, starting to spasm. If they seem super distracted.
Chime in.
I think that sweet. Well, I'm just listening and doing other things. I think there's a huge desire, like from my standpoint, to be that good client. Like it's like we try to hold it in so much so that like at the end of it, you're like, wow, you sat like a rock, or something like that. And it's like, for me personally, I started getting ready for the tattoo days in advance. And once it gets there, it's like you said, it's like a spa experience. You relax a little bit. But it's like, there's definitely a lot of pressure on the client. And I think most of us want to sit really well. We don't want to be a hassle. But yeah, like that communication between each other is really important.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that.
When we're strapping in for an all-day session, it's different. The challenges are different. It's, the more relaxed you are, the more we can get done. I actually like if, for instance, if I have a lot of things going on, or if I have something hectic or like just something heavy on my mind, usually right at the beginning of the day, it's like, all right, here's what's going on in my life. If I'm a little weird, blah, 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 and I rattle it all out and get it out of there. So like they know what to expect if I have to excuse myself but like I just find my life is the easiest, the more transparent I can be with my client, because, I've said, we've set aside the entire day for one another. Outside of that, there's no watching the clock. The day is what it is. And I think working like that takes a lot of pressure off of both of us, because, if you show up and you're not quite mentally prepared yet, or you haven't eaten, or like, whatever it is, we're going to order food before we get started. You know what I mean? Like, I've had the big sessions, so I think that helps me kind of like read what my clients are going through. But for me, like, I would rather kill an hour, wait for food, and then sit down and have a nice, efficient, solid 3 hours and take another break, rather than like get started, work for 15 minutes, their blood sugar's dropping, they didn't sleep, now we're fighting their body, where we could have just like chilled for a little bit, caught up, got some good healthy food on their belly, started a little bit more relaxed. It gives them a chance to get their jitters out and any nervousness and be like, all right, you're right, I am here. It is what it is, And I feel like sometimes, client comes in and we get right to it. But sometimes I think that like, if they're not 100% ready, like just chill for a minute, like just chill and help them get there, and like help them find, like you guys keep saying, like the grounded, the center, like help them find that. Like when I'm preparing for a tattoo, it's this very like, I just want to collect myself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to put that into words a better way, but just like, kind of like pull all of my energy in and like, just be like, just ready. Like, I don't know.
Here in the moment.
It's a
Yeah.
state of awareness. It's a
Mhm.
state of awareness. Like it's all about being like acknowledging all the different thoughts coming through. Like, oh, my body's feeling weird. I'm feeling nervous, or I like acknowledging and honoring all of these things and deciding to be in it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's kind of like being like tolerating the tattoo in the first place, acknowledging and honoring that pain and deciding to be in it. And I think to me, that's what being grounded is acknowledging and honoring all of the different aspects of whatever is going on, be them desirable or undesirable, whatever, allowing them to be where they are and allowing myself to be here. That's grounded.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I really did like how comfortable Red Tree is too, because usually,
Dude, yes.
yeah, like
We've
it was
got-
very compatible to how I
our
have it here at my
facility,
studio.
our facility is pretty
Heck yeah.
cool, but like a lot of it is really our team members. Like we really, one of the things that makes Red Tree so special is like, we call it the Red Tree family, but it really is like, we've got the most productive group message I've ever seen in my life. Like if somebody needs help moving, if somebody's got a project that they need more hands, they just throw it on the group message and like everybody shows up.
That's awesome.
So I think that's a big part of it, is there's this nice ebb and flow, because we do feel so much like a family. And, so many of us are from so many different places that like we can get together and we can have like family meals out here in the warehouse, and we can have like these family events where like people bring their kids and spouses and partners, and it's pretty neat. Not all shops have that. All shops might have like an occasional Christmas party that everybody goes to, but like here at Red Tree, I think that's one of the things that just makes this whole team feel special. Like we treat Red Tree as like not our place of work, but it's like our home. You know what I mean? We feel safe here. The people we care about are here. So I think maybe that lends to, I've heard a lot about how hospitable our team was over the weekend. And I think that's what it is. It's really like we're welcoming you into our home. So, the manners are the same as if we would have somebody in our home showing them around. And, we have a tendency to like walk people back to the door.
We don't have
if
any
it's-
artists who have like bad tastes in their mouth or anything like that. Just in general, like it seems like there in a lot of shops, there's always like someone or a couple people that are just like squeaky wheels of the shop, or so busy that they just can't handle life, that more things are just like a burden, and everything's a burden and stuff. And
that's where it's like,
it's such good energy from everyone stays so productive and so into the projects they have. Nothing is like, oh, I'm just trying to get this stupid piece done today. It's like, no, I'm trying like working hard at this piece for the next 6 hours, and it's amazing. And I would say that you walk to every room,
and then there's
in a
no
busy day at Red Tree, and it's the
competitiveness
same
here.
thing.
Like we're all in our own lane so much that we're like one another's cheerleaders. It's like, but we're all playing totally different sports. So but like with our clients, it's like, oh, well, maybe you should go play Frisbee for a little bit with Ben, and I'll kick a soccer ball over here. Like we're all, it's all so different, but so equally passionate.
No, and I love that vibe, I mean, it's true. Like, as an artist being tattooed in a studio, one time I was getting worked on, and my artist coworker comes in, just like starts shooting the shit with us. And then just starts talking about how they've got another stupid animal portrait to do. And I'm just like, why are you doing it then if you think it's stupid? Like,
right, that's
animal
not
portraits
cool
are
to say that.
yeah,
but-
it's really fun I think it's fun to do animal portraits. Like I think it's like
right.
It's special for
But
whoever's
It's not
gonna
cool
wear
to
it,
walk
man.
around. It's
so
not cool to
fun.
take on
Yeah.
tattoos and be like, oh, this stupid tattoo, but I took
This
it on. It's like,
stupid
that makes you
just
look worse. That makes you look
yeah,
stupider than your
that
stupid
makes you
tattoo.
look so I don't know if he was trying to sound cool in front of me or sound like an idiot intentionally.
Right. Like I'm above
I'm
this,
not,
I'm above this animal portrait, but I guess I'll do it because I do.
That's
Yeah. And I'm going to say
That's
this in front
totally
of
like
another artist.
right.
It's insane.
It's that cool kid culture instead of like the art kid of just the artist that just wants to improve. It's like when you
Right.
have that improvement mentality, it's like you could have any project and like, all right, time to refine my line work because this is all triangles and circles. Or,
Right.
time to refine, my line work because there's an infinity symbol. It is what it is. And even the
Mhm.
tiny stuff is worthy of being done because that's important to them.
Mhm.
Yep.
And if you don't want to
Yep.
do it, don't. Don't, because your
Don't.
client
Right.
sure as hell doesn't, and you're lying to them the entire time if you do it.
Yeah. If any,
Because
I
no
think
one
if any
wants
of
no one
my,
wants
It's
someone
like
who
a
doesn't
psychic
want
pressure.
to do a tattoo
yeah,
to tattoo them.
if they
Like,
don't want to, yeah, it's crazy. Where's the love? Where's the love of the
That
art
creates
in
a
that?
psychic
And
pressure that people can feel.
I couldn't
Mhm.
even imagine what my client would feel like if I made them feel like I'm tattooing like something that I didn't want to tattoo. Like I do try to do tattoos that
yeah,
I think look really cool to me, or at least if I wouldn't, that I would get tattooed on me. And if it's not that, I think it looks really cool. And if I mean, like, if it's something that I'm not gonna like, I wouldn't draw it up. But also, God, I couldn't imagine putting that on someone and like expressing that to them. Or if they found out that I didn't like doing that, like, I don't know. I just feel
yeah,
like the person's going to want to get it removed. Like there's so much that comes into the experience of getting tattooed that equates to the tattoo. Like I don't need you to remember me forever for doing the tattoo, but like the experience is going to stick with
Right.
you forever. And if you have a bad one,
Mhm.
then you're going to remember that forever. If
Right.
someone, while you're getting tattooed, tells you that that's a bad tattoo, shitty tattoo, or they didn't really want to do that tattoo, then you're going to remember that forever.
Forever, forever. It's a
Right.
stain that never ever
And
comes
whatever
off
it
of
is
you.
that whatever it is you're thinking and experiencing while you're tattooing, it imprints into the tattoo.
Mhm.
So those people that are like
Mhm.
hating what they're doing, it's creating a psychic pressure on that client
Right.
where they're feeling super uncomfortable about the process and not knowing why,
Mhm.
because most people aren't tuned
100%.
into the subtle aspects of reality.
Mhm.
But that's the other
Mhm.
thing about tattooing that's so important, is to keep your mind space clear so that you don't burden these people with your psychic shit.
Right,
Yeah.
even just your like, I
Yeah.
mean, all that, like, but even just your like your body language, like that stuff equates to just like the way, if you're sitting there tattooing with bad body language, that person's going to be sitting there like so questionable about your own feelings and how you feel about this. And like that communication thing where we were talking about
Yeah.
the client communicating, and please communicate, like a human
Mhm.
being. It's the artist needs to do the exact same. And if you're sitting there stewing on some problem, even if it's got nothing to do with the client and it's from outside
Right.
sources, like your client's going to be feeling that.
Yeah.
Even if they don't say anything the
Right.
entire time and you think you're completely cut off from them knowing your thoughts, they can hear your thoughts. They just don't know exactly what they are. They see your body language,
Right.
So
because
there,
we're
a
not
few
usually
years
aware of our
ago,
body language when we're doing it.
a few years ago,
Mhm.
I had this run of just several men that wanted me to rework like old tribal work. And I'm talking like big, sun faded, dark tribal work. But like,
Yeah.
it's one of those like, you want more tribal? And they're like, yeah, I still like the tribal. I just want bigger. I want better. Da, da, da. So do I want to do tribal? No. But like they're cool guys and I wanted to work on them. And like, most of them, like it was like years of them trying to get me to do their tribal stuff. But it just so happened in like a 4-month period, all of them like stepped up to the plate at the same time. So our consultations were like, I introduced a brand new style and I call it tribal, not tribal. And what I would do is I would just take these big, bold tribal lines that they had and I'd make them look like extrusions, like these bottomless extrusions. And then I'd put like a glow at the bottom of them. So it would like look like that you took the tribal piece out and you had like black with a glow at the bottom. So I did that on several.
Oh,
but
that's cool.
I
But it was
want
just
to
a way to
see
take, like,
this.
I'll dig some photos out and show you because I did a several now, but there was like a 4-month period where I did I think I did 3 in like 4 months, and each one was only 1 or 2 sessions. But it was like, did I want to do tribal and put my name on it with this other crazy cool stuff that I do? Not really, but like,
Right.
what if will you give me the freedom to like take these tribal shapes and make it cool?
Mhm.
And when they're like, yeah, well now it's like challenge accepted. Now how
Right.
do I take tribal and make it like 3 or 4 steps further than what they imagined it to be?
Right.
So now it's not
Right.
just this flat black tribal, it's these tribal shapes that look like they've literally just been cookie cuttered out and there's a glow
Mhm.
coming from the bottom. Like it's still
That's
exactly
cool.
tribal, but just a
That's
way to
cool.
like add color, add another layer of dimension, and make it look just super deep and like draw your eye into it. Like it could have
And
been a
you,
flat tribal stamp, but you know what? The flip side is by doing it this way, it took me less time than it would have taken me to do solid black tribal
Right.
to begin with.
Mhm.
So it was like a better idea, faster, and like they're never going to be teased about having tribal.
Mhm.
right.
And these
And
clients
you
have
took
been
on a
pursuing you
challenge.
for
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
took on a
So
challenge that like someone presented to you and you decided to make that into a new challenge. And so even for that portrait, that animal portrait guy, I was like, you know, many things that are so cool and like next level you can do with animal portraits. You know, like if you're just seeing it as like fine, you know, like take a
Photorealistic
vacation.
eyeballs are another
Yeah,
one.
right. Take a fucking vacation's
Yeah.
right.
Take a
There's
Photorealistic
something
eyes.
something about you's a little
Yeah.
bit burnout because if you take animal portraits and that's something that you do and you think you can do them well, but so another one is another stupid one because you're so used to doing them, then like
Right.
renew
Take a
your want to do it
vacation.
because they can exactly they can be really cool.
They
There was
can
a
be
minute
really
where I
cool. And
was
that's
doing
with
a lot of
anything.
photorealistic eyeballs, and there was like maybe two where it was like I did the photo exactly as it was, and it was like, okay, challenge accepted, knocked them out of the park. I feel pretty good about those. So it's like, how can I make the next one even better? What else can you do besides take an eyeball and make it hyper realistic? What can I do with the reflection? So now it's how far can I
Mhm.
push the reflection bouncing off of the eyeball? So you got to get the iris just right, but you've got to leave the reflective areas to build the next scene. So it's like,
Mhm.
you know, I occasionally still do like an eyeball, just like, you know, I'm sure all of us have done it, been like challenge accepted. There's your photorealistic, hyper realistic, whatever label you want to give it,
Mhm.
eyeball. But now it's like, how can I add an element of fantasy to it? Or how can I pull an
Right.
element of like another piece of the story? So like
Mhm.
there's a
Or
lot of
even
cool
like,
things that you can just like one up the same
yeah,
idea.
one up. A color reflecting from something that
Mhm.
wasn't in their reference photo. You know, you
Mhm.
can play with color, you can play with shadow, you play with framework, how it sits on the body. You know, there's so many things you can do with every tattoo. And that's why also like when I have
If
an
you're
apprentice right now
if
that like taking traditional designs and I'm like, make it your own, play
Mhm.
with it, you know, because like people will ask you for these things your entire career, like
as
roses
an
and eagles.
artist, if you're bored with
Mhm.
it, your collector could be bored with it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
If
yes,
as an
yes.
artist, you're like, okay, I've done 500 lions in my career, but this one is going to be even more gnarly. And wait till you see
More
what we do with
gnarly.
the eyes on this. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
always that, at least
Mhm.
for me. And I
I
think
think
that's a
there's
key to growth is like you almost
I think so
have to
too.
like one up yourself or two or three or four up yourself.
I see. I love
Mhm.
that feeling. Like to me, that's such a great thing because like, okay, I've been doing like a lot of geo for the past couple of years. I mean, the past like 10, you know, at least the past 5 years, I have done so much different geo pieces that like I'm definitely coming at this point where I've done so much and I've done like almost I don't want to say everything I can think of, but I've done like, you know, I've done and reiterated a lot of the techniques and things I've always thought of. Now I'm just at this point where I'm always trying to find something new and I'm trying to find a new way to integrate something into it. And like I'm not getting to this point where because like I get that slight feeling of like, okay, you know, I don't want to do something that feels stale to me. So I don't want to jump into a tattoo that's gonna kind of feel stale. Of course, the client's probably gonna be super cool with it, but maybe I've done something like this a lot in a different way, you know, things like that start to really push me to just like change the way I'm doing things and like let's make this one
Exactly.
totally different. I know they're down for this is the way I would normally go about this, but let's just like, you know, think outside the box a little bit and just try to
Mhm.
change this completely or just do something a little bit different, which always end up pushing myself a little bit outside the box. And then I usually find like some new technique or something that like sometimes revolutionizes all my work and I find a whole new like style
Yeah.
within that style. That kind of happened
Mhm.
to me with like that cybernetic stuff like a good like year or two ago. Back
Mhm.
when I first started working here,
Oh
I was doing a lot
yeah.
of geometric work and like more dot worky, paisley-esque, like a lot of flower of life type designs and mandala stuff, which I still do now. But also there was like this big switch where like I'm like, okay, well, someone came to me for that same thing, and then I just kind of totally went a different direction and was like, did this totally cybernetic geometric thing,
I
and
don't know if
like
you
I
guys
was
are
like,
familiar with Jordan's work, but if you could imagine like taking a picture of a computer chip, like a close up of a computer chip, and then turning that into like a kaleidoscope. that's what he's building his mandalas out of. So when he says
Mhm.
cybernetic, imagine like a black and white version of a microchip, and then that turned into like facets. It's pretty cool. I dig
It's
it.
very cool.
I
It's very
think
cool.
it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you, Fawn. Thank you.
I
Thank
dig
you.
it. I dig
It was
too, Jordan.
it was a
It's
lot of
good.
fun to switch to, but like I don't know, something switched where I wanted to try something different, and then I just like fell in love with it so quickly. And then, man, probably I snagged probably 7 different sleeves out of that one.
Mhm.
7 or 8 different
Mhm.
people getting full sleeves from that. Big chest pieces,
Mhm.
big huge pieces. I got someone right now who's doing a whole full bodysuit of it.
It's still the same tricks.
Nice.
It's just like such a different visual language. It's like for a
Right.
viewer to look at it, it's like, is it alien? Is it tribal? Is it computer? Is it, yes, all
Right?
of the
Kind
above.
of Mandalic and Indian, like
Right.
Yes, to all.
but also like from the future, maybe. From the future for
I'm
sure.
most known for
Future
my
tribal.
animals, right? Like lots and lots of animals all the time. And I remember I had just learned how to do that neon light look.
Mhm.
And so it was like a last minute decision. I had this flamingo like thing I was adding to a sleeve, and it was like a Florida tat. I was like, yo, what if we make the flamingo look like it's a neon sign too? And he was like, don't, let's do it. And now it's like it's part of my thing. Now I have like 2 leg sleeves that are all like Blade Runner-esque neon
Yeah, that's
crazy
awesome.
realism. But
That's
it
how
was
we
that
step it
quick
up as
little like,
artists.
right, I just learned about this. I just figured out how to do it. Like, can I try it on your piece? And if you show an example that's good enough, usually they'll say like, yeah, that's rad, let's do it. But it was such an off the wall thing. And I just, even though it was like not from my style and not, but at least I asked, and he was down. So now it is part of my style. It is part of my routine where I'm like, I have this in my basket. I can use a little bit of this. I can use a little bit of that,
Right.
you know?
Let's
Right,
dig
like-
in this other bag of
I always
tricks
gotta do that
real
with my
quick.
clients in my
Yeah.
consultations, and I'm like basically exactly that. We got a basket of things here. I'm like, which one of these things do you like? But we can add a little bit of this. We can add a little bit of this.
A
Got
little
some
bit of that.
cybernetic. Do you want to do a little bio? Do you want to do like some other geometry? We can do some of this geometry with the
Mhm.
cyber.
And that's how you make connections, and that's how you make like tattoos that people have never seen before, because you're adding all these tricks and no one's done it before. Then you were the first one to do it. Like you were the first one to
Right.
combine these little ingredients.
Mhm.
And that's how developing your style happens. A lot of people like start tattooing and they're like, I need to find a style. I'm like, the style finds you.
It's such a
Mhm.
funny thing. I recently, so when
It's
I
very
was
true.
when
It's
I
very
first
true. You
started
can't push for it.
tattooing,
A little
I
bit.
like did tattoo parties, and I like traveled all over Columbus, and I tattooed in like basements and kitchens and what have you. But
Punk rock.
meanwhile, I was still pretty, for somebody who does so much freehand and stuff, I still was very like high tech. I had like a little tablet that I could flip around and use as a light box, and I could also use it to like pull references up. And we're talking like 2008, 2010 era. So we got to
Oh,
rewind
okay.
a little bit.
You're pretty high tech for back then.
Yeah. Everybody was like, what is this thing? I was like, this is like a $200 tablet that you buy from Verizon when they talk you into buying an extra line. It's my light box also. But anyways, when I was doing all of that, I still drew everything freehand. Like I wasn't necessarily drawing as much stuff on the skin freehand, but like I sketched everything. I did all of my own lettering, like all of it. And I was just like flipping through those old books of like the hand drawn, like what I used to make my stencils. And I was just flipping through them, and it's like, there were hints of what I'm doing all the way back then. Like there were like certain specific things that like I still do now, and like how I draw my filigree and how I draw my scroll work. Like there are just certain like nuances, like, you could tell. Like I spent years trying to figure out like what my style was, like what Renee's saying. But like when I take the time and go back and look, it was there all along.
Mhm.
It was there all
We're-
along. Like all the
We're
time that I
constantly
spent,
fine-tuning.
all the time that I spent like saying like, challenge accepted, I'll try this other style. It's I add that style into my work, not I'm taking my work into that style. It's like I'm pulling it into what I was already doing. So like, just little specific things like the fit and flow of my pieces, even though they were smaller, like there are just certain flows and certain rhythms and things. Like I work in 3s and 5s a lot. And like when I'm working in color, Renee, I'm sure after looking at your work, you consider things like this too, but I'll consider the whole piece, and then I'll consider the rhythm of my color from dark to cool. And,
Mhm.
and then I want to have like foreground, background, foreground, background. And I want to have all these visual rhythms that just keep your eye bouncing up and down and then back up and then back down. And just to keep your eye traveling. And when I look back at super early tattoos and drawings, that was in there. I just didn't realize it. I wasn't doing it consciously yet. It was just there.
Because a lot of that
what
is subconscious. Yeah. A lot of this, like, I feel like tattooing, like, you are given all these tools during your apprenticeship, or even if you're self-taught, you're like, you're seeing, you're copying, but yet you're reinventing, yet you're moving. But then you get to start dissecting yourself after you feel like, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Let me look actually what I've been doing, you know, and then you're critiquing yourself and dissecting yourself. And then you're realizing you've been doing really cool stuff just subconsciously. And I love that aspect of it, because it's like, oh, wow, I was doing that. I just didn't like realize that I was doing that, you know, but now, yeah. And also teaching, like, going over things with my apprentice is like insane. We went over needles yesterday, a brief history, difference of bar needles versus cartridges, all that fun stuff. And I was like, holy crap, this is a lot of information that I didn't even realize that I knew 100% like this. And so like now, like going back into it, yeah, now I'm kind of like even like rethinking how I want to structure myself. So it is all about growth and just critiquing yourself and keeping yourself mindful. Because I told
Isn't it funny how like when you're teaching somebody else and you like break down and you reverse engineer something and you're like, why do I do it like this? Why is this like this? And it's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I can streamline this, that, or the other even more. You know, it's like
I think about
through teaching, we learn more.
Oh yeah. Streamlining is like I'm addicted to streamlining. I like being efficient and streamlining. So I was telling people also about why I like to line out everything first as well. And why that's part of my process is actually, so it's streamlined. I don't have to get out all my pigments that I think I might use. I might have to get out all my needles I think I might need to use, you know, depending on how my client lasts, depending on what we can get done. It's like, I know I'll have this whole thing mapped out. And then as soon as they come back to me, I go, okay, cool. Today we will do these colors with these needles, and I'm not wasting supplies. I'm not, you know, so doing color tattoos, I think you guys can agree, is an expensive trade. Like if you are a color artist, you're going to spend so much money on color other than your partner is doing like just, you know, dot work or, you know, black and like a very short assortment of needles. But for color work, you've got round shaders, you've got curve max, you've got all these different elements. So I was like, in the beginning, just like using all the stuff because I'd be a little bit more disorganized than I am now. And realizing that like I would just approach wherever the client wanted to kind of focus on or whatever I was prepared for. So I learned that if I was completely prepared, got everything mapped out, go with that line, then as soon as they come to me, I knew that I could be really streamlined with what inks I was going to use, what needles I was going to use, what my setup was. And that has like completely changed, you know, the way I think
a lot
about.
of days that I'm working, I might have a ton of colors out, but it's going to be the colors I need for whatever area or element.
That
like
day, yeah, exactly.
Most time I only have 2 needles. I'll have like a big shader and a little shader. You know, until we get down to like the nitty gritty and we're like hitting hard lines and crispy details. But like if we're talking saturation sessions, usually I have like a 9 and a 15, and that's it. Run it.
I get out a 23 and a 15, sometimes a 13, depending if I feel special. No. Guys, I really suck, but I must go.
I mean, we've been going for about 2 hours, so we've had an awesome discussion, and we can pick up any time as well. Any Thursday we can pick up again.
I feel like it's a perfect time to wrap it up too. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Okay.
I hear rapping on my door, so I'm like, man, sorry.
Yeah, we've been going for about 2 hours, so this is as good a time as any.
Yeah,
thank you guys so much for taking time to join us. It was awesome hearing about your experiences. I'd love to follow the journey of your back piece, Ananda. We didn't have the podcast idea when I was going through my back journey, so now I like to get everybody's because it gives me the opportunity to share mine.
Yeah,
but thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day. I hope you'll join us again. Do you guys want to throw your Instagram handles and stuff out there real quick before we sign off?
Yeah. You can find me at Renee Little Tattoos or at Gold Fang Gallery, and that's Gold Fang Gallery. And we're out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So if you're downtown and you see a big, creepy, scary, monolithic building, that's us.
Yay.
Come ring the bell.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm Ananda War, spiritual tattooer on all of the social medias and Gmail and whatnot. And my shop is Light Hand Arts. Light and hands. And we make the art. So thanks so much for having us. This was really fun.
Yeah, thank you
Right.
for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll see
thanks
the
for-
rest of you next week.
Awesome.
right, guys.
Thank you guys so
Talk to you
much.
soon.
Sounds great.